Most of the miniatures in the Assassin's Creed board game have been really faithful to the original designs from the video game, which I absolutely adore. But for some reason, these miniatures have departed from this formula, and for a person like me who likes to paint color schemes according to the source material, that can be a little bit frustrating. So in this video, we're going to explore ways to paint the Thieves, Mercenaries and Courtesans from the Assassin's Creed board game, and I will also show you 3 different ways to achieve 3 skin tones using these models. So let's get cracking.
What? My pouch,
oh,
my money.
Your money! I don't have your money!
So we're first going to take a look at the Thieves, and if you've played the video games, you may be familiar with the outfits usually worn by the Thieves of Venice, who never let poverty get in the way of style. But if you take a closer look at the minis, the outfits are actually quite different from those in the video game, and that really sparked my curiosity. So I did a little more digging and found this concept art on the Wikipedia page, which is a dead ringer and obvious inspiration for the mini. Now I don't know where this concept art came from, but I do like the colors used in the concept art, which is a little more interesting than the dull dirty green tone used in the video game, so I think I will paint our thieves using this color scheme. So to start off, I use my dirty zenithal priming method to help with bringing out the textures and cloth detail on the model. As this model has a closed pose, I will start with painting the clothes, as this is the innermost component which will be hardest to reach later. For the clothes, I'm using Militarum green, which is a nice earthy green, and I apply the paint directly over the zenithal highlights, which I feel really helps to accentuate the contrast quickly and efficiently. For the dirty brown pants, I'm going with Wyldood to keep it consistent with the overall dirty and earthy kind of scheme we have going. I then paint the sleeves with Nazdreg yellow to give the model a little pop of colour. For his shoes, they look a little bit like sun-damaged leather, and so for this I use Fyreslayer flesh, which approximates this orangey leather look. At this point, I realized that I didn't paint the little pouch that he was holding, and I go back to it with Nazdreg yellow to tie it in with the sleeves and balance out the whole colour scheme on the model. For the skin tone, I really like the pale malnutrition look in the art, so I will show a quick and easy way to paint this. First, I paint the skin areas with Raka Flesh. Raka Flesh is one of my most favourite paints, as it is so versatile as a base colour for flesh as well as for cloth, so I paint the cloth areas at the same time. Once dry, I apply Reichland Flesh Shade directly over the Raka Flesh. When applying the wash, try not to let it pool too much and allow just enough to define the features on the model. Once dry, quick and easy pale skin is done. We can also quickly and easily paint the cloth details by applying soft tone over the Raka Flesh. I find this gives a nice used cloth kind of look, which is very suitable for medieval periods. Now all that's left is the base, which I will paint with the usual method, starting with bleach bone, followed by an uneven wash with green tone and soft tone, and I then use dry brushing to pick out the details and finish it with black lining of the bevels on the base. And with that, the lovable thieves are done. Lovable that is, until they steal your shit during the Ladro event.
I cannot fight like this. Stand with me!
Next, we are going to be painting the Mercenaries, and again, some may recall Bartolomeo's band of brothers sporting this sexy textured blue tunic and armor. But comparing it with the mini, you can see that the design is again a little different, and I wonder why that is.
Aha!
It's pretty obvious that the sculptor used the concept art they found on the Wikipedia page, but I really wonder why they chose not to use the video game art, which is like right there. This time, however, I'm going to follow the video game art because I really like how that teal and brown combination looks. We have also primed this model using the zenithal priming method, which is particularly useful in this case because the model has a lot of folds and details on the clothes that get picked out really nicely using this method. This time we are starting with the skin, and for these macho men I wanted to give them a bit more of a healthy skin tone, so I start by applying a base coat of Cadian flesh tone. We'll come back to the skin later, but for now I move on to the tunic. To achieve a light greyish blue look, I use Gryphcharger grey. Gryphcharger Grey is a little bit less pigmented than other contrast paints, so I put a slightly heavier coat all over the entire upper tunic. You can see that it dries kind of light, but that's okay as it results in a really nice subtle blue-grey. Next we will paint the pants, and to contrast with the light tunic, I want to give him some dark grey pants. In contrast to the Gryphcharger Grey, Basilicum Grey tends to be quite heavily pigmented and often looks more black than grey, so it's important to shake it and mix it well and try to apply a thinner coat, spreading it out over the entire portion of the model. Next we will paint the leather portions, and I wanted to create a bit of a seasoned leather look. So for this I used the really dark Cygor brown to paint the boots as well as the shoulder pads, straps and belt areas. The dark Cygor brown overlaid on the pale blue-grey tunic makes for a nice striking contrast that really accentuates the detail on the model. To have a bit of fun and also a little bit of variation, I wanted to give them bright hair colours. I chose Iyanden Yello to try and get a very bright blonde look, but now that I look at it again, I'm not sure I like it. Nazdreg Yellow, however, is a really nice colour to get a sandy brown kind of blonde hair. As for Gryphound Orange, it's lovely for fiery orange hair like that dude from the Thundercat. With the hair done, it's time to complete the skin tones by applying Reikland Flesh Shade. Reikland Flesh Shade adds further red tones over the already rich and saturated Cadian skin tone to achieve a really nice healthy looking pallor. To finish up the details on the model, I paint their bandanas with Incubi Darkness to try and match the tunic. I don't use the contrast paint here as it applies too lightly, and I do need to paint over some of the spillover from the hair and face. I then paint the axe and knives with plate mail metal, which is followed up with a wash of Agrax Earthshade for some simple weathering. Lastly, I do up the bases, and with that, our macho men are done. I haven't had a chance to use these models as I went with the Courtesan HQ, but if you guys have, let me know if they are useful in the comments below.
You've worked hard, my son. I feel your tired body in need of comfort and succor.
But I have such aches and pains, sister. I may need a great deal of comfort and succor.
Oh, that can be arranged. Girls!
And finally we have the Courtesans, and thankfully this time the miniature is pretty consistent with both the game and the concept art, which is awesome. For this miniature, I wanted to take the opportunity to paint some really beautiful, fair and smooth female skin, as well as bright and dazzling dresses to really make these girls stand out. We start with the zenithal priming again, but this time I wanted to make sure that more white gets onto the model so that we can get an overall brighter finish when using the contrast paints. Due to the nature of the model, it's a little hard to prime under the skirt, but using the priming stick helps us to easily angle the model and get our primer way up in there. While we do lose some of the natural shadows, I want to focus on making these minis stand out with their striking colours. We're going to start by painting the skin areas with Kislev Flesh, which is a really nice light and pale flesh tone which we will use as our base flesh colour. Next, we are going to try and shade the flesh, but instead of using the usual Reikland Flesh shade, I will mix in Xerius Purple with the Kislev Flesh to create a darker skin tone for shading. With this, I paint in the shaded areas of the skin such as under the kneecaps, arms, and also the recesses in the cleavage and under the neck. As an ordinary guy who never received any training in using colours, I thought it was quite odd to use purple to shade flesh, but after seeing much better painters use it to achieve really great results for fair skin, I decided to give it a try. For these models, the skin is really the part I wanted to focus on, so I take my time to slowly layer and blend in the shades. It's a nice model to experiment with as the skin portions are really quite small and doesn't take too much time at all. With the skin done, it's time to paint the next major part of the model, that is, the dresses. I go through my paint collection to try and pick some of the brightest colours I have to really make these girls pop. When using contrast paints over large areas, you want to try and hit the entire area in a single coat of paint before the contrast gets a chance to dry so that the paint applies evenly. To do this, you should use an appropriate size brush so that you can work quickly, but you might hit some areas that require a little bit more finesse, so for those areas I hot switched to a smaller brush to get into the little cracks and hard to reach areas. For their masks, I painted them to match the colours of their dresses as well, and I do the same for their little elbow guards. Next we paint the hair, and while I want them to have kind of flashy hair to make them stand out, they should also match their dresses. So I like the art which matched fiery red hair with the yellow dresses as well as the brown hair with the red dress, so these are pretty much sorted. For the blue dress, I felt a raven kind of look would be nice, but instead of painting the hair flat black, I used shyish purple to try and give the hair a bit more depth and luster. As for the purple dress, I go with a reliable blonde using Nazdreg yellow. While waiting for the paint to dry, I get started with base coating the bases using Wraithbone, and I also base coat the fan and other cloth areas using Raka Flesh. To break up the dress area and bring out its detail, I also use Raka Flesh to paint in the stitches, seams and frills, which I think really helps to bring the model together. Once the base coats are dry, we do a quick wash of the base with the green and soft tone mix, and I also wash all the clothes areas with soft tone. To bring back the vibrancy of the cloth after the wash, I go over the cloth areas again with a light highlight of Raka Flesh. We don't want our halls to look too dirty, and I then go over them with a final highlight of off-white to try and bring back some vibrancy to the cloth areas. After some touch-ups, we finish the base with a dry brush of bleach bone and black lining so that our ladies of the night are done. It was my first time painting Sin using this method, and I'm quite happy with the soft and fair effect that it produced. Which of these colour combinations is your favourite? Let me know in the comments below.
So I ask you, Ezio, who are the true nobles of Venezia? I say we are thieves and mercenary and whores.
While we didn't have perfect painting references for these minis, I was happy to have an opportunity to experiment with colours and try new combinations. I hope this video has been helpful for those who may be similarly lost. Let me know in the comments below which colour scheme you like the best, and if you are painting the game, do check out my other videos as well.